Hello, good afternoon, good evening rather, everyone. Thank you very much for joining myself, Councillor Zahir Khan and Councillor Chowdhury Rashid for today's Ward Forum meeting. It's a joint Ward Forum meeting for Small Heath and Bordesley Green Ward. We have Justin Varney with ourselves today. We go around and introduce ourselves in a short while. So we'll start off by the first thing on the agenda, which is we will talk about the virus, the pandemic, and it's been a very, very difficult time for just under a year now, and there's been so many deaths. So we're just focusing on the vaccination program, which has been fantastic so far in terms of rolling out everything. Sorry, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Is my video on?
Yes, it's okay.
No, it's not.
No, it's
Sorry?
not on anymore.
Oh, it's not on.
No, it was on earlier and now it's not. Now it's not. Now it's
Right.
not.
Okay, right, that's fine. So we're just going to now get an update from Justin to speak to us about the virus and the pandemic and the vaccination program and how important it is, and where we are at the moment, and some of the key rules and regulations as well as restrictions are in place.
So, Councillor Akhtar, it's Dr. Marion Gibbon rather than Dr. Varney today.
Sorry. Yes, so Dr. Marion Gibbon.
Quite all right. So, thank you very much for the introduction anyway, but you will be pleased to know that things are looking better. The 7-day case rate in Birmingham has now decreased and it's come down quite considerably. It's now 165.9 cases per 100,000 compared to what it was a week ago, which was 225 cases per 100,000. So it's really great that we're finally getting some a situation where it's not quite as dire as it has been. The spread that's taking place is mainly through.
Sorry, Dr. Gibbon. Just a moment. I do apologise. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I haven't made an important announcement. I need to make sure that to all the residents that are listening and participating in the online meeting today with us, that a recording of the meeting will be available, will be made, and this meeting is live at the moment and will be available for future record. Sorry, do continue.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you very much for that. So the case rate now for Birmingham is 31st highest, which is much improved, and we've seen a decrease in cases of 26% over the last week. Oh, sorry, excuse me, one of my dogs is making rather a noise at the moment. So in terms of where we are in Bordesley Green, the ranking is 14th out of the 69 wards, and for Small Heath it's with 7th. So rather, Small Heath is higher in terms of the number of cases than Bordesley Green, and both of these areas, both of your wards, have a case rate which is above the Birmingham average. Now, we've been trying to get people to become COVID champions across the city, and the COVID champions, I know many of you councillors are COVID champions, and they are able to get the very latest updated information in terms of case numbers, the latest guidance that's coming out, and then they're able to share that with their communities. So it's a really important role, and we're really trying to increase the numbers. In terms of where you're doing it, Bordesley Green has got 9 COVID champions at the moment, and Small Heath has 2. So it would be great to see those numbers increase, and I'm sure that you will really help with making sure that we have more signed up to that programme. It will be really really helpful. Now, in terms of where the largest numbers of people in the kind of working age population, so the highest percentage is in the 40 to 59 age group in both of your wards, and you'll be pleased to know that the numbers in the elder population has gone down quite a bit, and it's only 2 to 3% now. In terms of the ethnicities that we're seeing the most problem amongst, that still continues to be amongst the Asian ethnic group, with in Bordesley Green 62%, and in Small Heath 75% of the cases are in the Asian ethnic group. It's much smaller within both black, mixed and white populations. So in terms of the vaccination programme, as you say, it's really being rolled out extremely well. The GPs are very pleased with how things are going. There are has been a few problems around getting the number of vials of the vaccine, but that seems to have improved now. Lateral flow testing is taking place in many of the different settings now, and there's a new opportunities for that lateral flow testing to take place in particular businesses as well, in order for them to make sure that they can get all their staff continuing to work and reduce the numbers that are off due to having to self-isolate. So that's the information that I've got for you, but I'm happy to take questions, so please do ask away.
Right, Dr. Gibbon, I'd like to ask a few questions that residents have posed to myself about the vaccination programme. There's been a lot of myths around vaccine, and it not being suitable for people that have, that come from a Muslim background or have, such beliefs. So whether this has what it contains, and the side effects of that. So can you just give us some more information about how to say?
Yes, certainly. So the vaccines do not contain any animal products whatsoever, and so they are perfectly fine for anybody from any particular tradition. So there's no products that would cause an issue. Then in terms of, there are quite a lot of myths, as you say, going around about particular problems in terms of how it affects people, but in fact the side effects are no worse than say having the flu vaccine. So you might get a bit of a pain where you've had your vaccination, or you might have a few achy joints, but those side effects are really hardly anything compared with actually getting COVID itself. So it's far better to go ahead and get the vaccine, particularly for the groups that are at high risk. So that anybody who has a long-term condition, and one of the shielding groups, and then because the focus has been on the older age groups in the first instance and those with comorbidities, but that's now coming down so that more and more people of all ages above 40 will be able to start getting their vaccination. So it's a really good thing to do, and many of the GPs have already had all our health professionals have already had their vaccination now. All care homes have been offered the vaccination as well, and so if you're called and given an opportunity to have the vaccination, that's what's going to get us into a place where we're able to get on with our lives in a bit more, with a bit more normality. And that vaccine, those vaccines, so the research that's been undertaken to date is showing that it's stopping there's a decrease in spread, and so it's all working extremely well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. The other questions that have been raised to myself has been the effectiveness of the vaccine. There's been a lot of information, a lot of confusion even in the community, and by the information that has been communicated by the government and other authorities. So can you please tell us today how effective are the different vaccines with AstraZeneca, Pfizer, etc.?
They do have some differences in how effective they are, but for the most part, in terms of all of them, are really helps stop the spread of COVID, and people don't have a choice. They will be whatever vaccine is available is what will be utilised on that particular day. And in terms of their efficacy, they are extremely high in comparison to many vaccines. And so in terms of the concerns that people might have around whether to get have the vaccine, I would be, if I was able to have my vaccine at the moment, I would most definitely be in the position that I would want to have it.
Okay, thank you. That's very, very helpful. And can I just ask you to mention, well, give your final message on your take on where we are at in this pandemic at this current point in time, from where we started?
So I think we've been on a bit of a roller coaster, but we are beginning to see a light out of the place that we have been, with the numbers of people contracting COVID reducing, and the situation in the hospitals is beginning to improve as well. So the signs are very positive. However, we never know quite what will happen with these, in the case of if other variants arise and the vaccine is not so effective with them. We could be it could change. So I would not like to be told for people to think that we're past the worst, because we never quite know with this situation. It can change quite rapidly, but as far as things are going, it does look as if things are gradually now improving. But we can't rest on our laurels. We have to continue to make sure that we wear our face coverings, that we wash our hands, and that we keep our distance, and make sure that we consider ourselves in relation to our families too.
If you want to add anything to what you've said or ask further questions, Zahir?
Sorry, Safia, can you say that again, please? I never heard that.
Yes, I just wanted to pass on to yourself if you wanted to add anything more, anything extra to what I've said, or ask further questions to
No, that's fine. No, that's fine at this stage. I'm fine.
And Councillor Rashid, would you like to ask any further questions or make any comments regarding this this item on the agenda? Hello, Councillor Rashid, can you hear me? I think Councillor Rashid's having some technical issues. Not to worry, but thank you very much. That was very informative. I don't think that we've got any questions from the residents as of yet regarding this item on the agenda. So
sorry, Safia. Just one thing it came to mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Should I put the camera on now? Or?
Yes,
please.
Marion.
Yes.
Hi, Marion. Yeah, just wanted to clarify in terms of locally, as the vaccine now is rolling out, one of the concerns something which I was thinking about is that how can we locally facilitate the vaccine in Small Heath and the surrounding areas in terms of its availability, rather than just GPs? Can we extend this to, let's say, local pharmacies, some of the mosques, some of the other establishments, and we can increase the pace of those who wish to take the vaccine up much earlier? Are there any thoughts into that? Are there any thoughts into that? Because although at the moment the vaccine is being offered in terms of age and priority, is there some agenda at some stage where we have more vaccines available and we can just get them out in communities?
The NHS is responsible for the making sure that vaccines are given. It's not one of the roles of the council. So in terms of how that's all undertaken, it's through our NHS colleagues that they're the ones that are planning and developing how that vaccination program is rolled out.
Thank you very much, Marion. Thank you. I mean, it's something I think for future is something we need to bear in mind, because there's a suggestion that there's a less take up of the vaccine by ethnic minority groups. But at the same time, what we need to do is we need to see what's the extent of the availability of the vaccine in local areas. And that's how locally we could encourage our constituents in the ward, family and friends, to actually take up the vaccine.
Yes, and we are doing some research with the University of Birmingham around some of the concerns that people from different communities have, in order to develop our messages to make them as targeted and as effective as we possibly can. So that piece of work is ongoing, just about to start. So that we really want to make sure that our messaging is as clear and understandable as possible, and that we use the right languages in order for everybody to be able to understand and know where to go and how to get the vaccine as well.
Hello, and
thank you very much for that.
Chairman, sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. First of all, I would like to offer my deepest condolences for all those people from Bordesley Green, Small Heath area and surrounding areas who have lost dear ones, and I'm really very sorry about that. As far as this vaccine is concerned, I've had mine, and I'm encouraging people to go along and have this, because it is really very important. We are lucky to have the facility, and we should make the most of it. You know, and I'm also, I think what we would like to do, what we would like to be done, is that there should be a place where people can go.
Councillor Rashid, I think you're gone on to mute.
Technical problems, I'm sorry, technical problems. But as far as I think, you know, it's a door-to-door facility for people to go along. Doctors can visit the homes of people and do everybody, you know, get everybody to have the vaccine while they are here.
I will discuss that further with colleagues, Councillor Rashid, and But it is the NHS who is responsible for the rollout of the programme. So, but we can have those ongoing discussions.
Just looking through the questions that have been sent through to see if there's anything that's being directed to yourself, Dr. Gibbon. Just a moment. Bear with me. No, there's no questions to yourself. So it seems that from what we've discussed so far and what you've shared with us, it's been very informative and very helpful. Of course, going forward in our future meetings, we'll be more than happy to invite you to continue to keep us up to date as times are changing and things are moving along very rapidly, very quickly. So thank you very much for joining us today. You're more than welcome to stay on if you'd like, but you're more than welcome to leave if you'd wish.
Thank you very much, Councillor Akhtar. It's been my pleasure. And if there are further questions that arise during your meeting, please send them through to the Public Health Department, and we are happy to answer them. So I am going to go because it's time for my dinner just shortly. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Stay safe. So that was Dr. Gibbon giving us an update on the current situation and the pandemic and where we are with the rollout of the vaccination. Now we're moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is just a moment. I believe it's the local ward, the local update, the ward councillors update. So I'll start by asking Councillor Zahir Khan to answer the questions that have been directed to him. And if you can answer some of the questions that have been published. Councillor Khan? And if you want to give your update as well
thank you, Councillor. I don't know if I'm being recorded now. Yes, I am.
Yes, yes.
There are a number of questions which I'm going through and I'm dealing with, but apparently in terms of update, this has been an extremely difficult year because of the pandemic. We've not seen anything of this on an unprecedented level in our lifetimes, and let's hope we don't see anything of this nature. Since COVID, we have had to change in terms of how we conduct ourselves and how we deal with our council work. In terms of being able to do things face to face, we've not been able to hold face to face meetings because of the public health situation, and we've had to take advice from the council in terms of how we make adjustments. What I've done is I have, since the COVID period, I've done my regular casework by way of through the council inquiries and the regular channels whereby anybody who's raised inquiries, we have raised them. In addition to this, what I've been doing is I have been having meetings with the various officers and cabinet colleagues in order to discuss the situation in Small Heath. Now, whether this includes fly tipping, whether it includes rubbish, with Councillor John O'Shea, I've had these discussions in order to make them aware of the situation in Small Heath. What's advantageous or what's good now is that in this budget that has just been approved in the council meeting of Tuesday, new announcements have been made and budget has been allocated in order to deal with the tackling and the fly tipping issue. This will involve the usage of more CCTV cameras, as well as reporting people who are dumping, and therefore the council will be able to take more enforcement action. In terms of crime and drug dealing and drug taking in the area, that is still there. Whether we have COVID or not, that is still simply there. I've discussed matters with cabinet colleagues, and with a view to see what we can do. The police have also been alerted of the hotspots in terms of where drug dealing and trafficking is taking place. What I've had is, in particular, a meeting with a Holy Family head teacher. This was back in November, December, who raised alarmingly a lot of things, which included drug dealing simply outside of the school, and the young children seeing this at daytime. Now, that was something which went on in addition to getting other people involved in this, the police, the MP, in order to discuss what can be done. My understanding from Jess Phillips MP is that action measures have been put into place with Councillor John Cotton in terms of what measures can be brought in order to help assist this matter. We've also had the police who become aware, and we've put this to them in terms of what is happening in the area. The issue has been raised, and this is something which, as a community, we have to come together and deal with. One of the things that makes matters worse is we have the issue of exempt housing or multi-letting which has increased in Small Heath by virtue of rented accommodation, as well as those that is rented and supported accommodation. And what's happened is that a lot of people have reported to me that this has increased the amount of people who are coming into the area, buying drugs and taking drugs. Now, I've raised this with the council by way of inquiries. We've also put in petition from residents of Oldham Road. Apparently, at the moment, we have regulations which is allowing the issue of exempt housing to take place amongst the city as well as our area in Small Heath. And this is something which we have to campaign. As a community, we have to campaign to the council that we need changes to the regulation so that the distribution of this type of exempt housing is more equal throughout the city. And also, the people who are residing in these exempt housing, we simply cannot ignore. This is where we need the outreach teams to come out and facilitate help with these young people or vulnerable people who may have difficulties, whether that is their drug addictions, whether that is mental health difficulties, whether that is some other health difficulties, or it may be that they are in difficult circumstances in their life. But this is something which we again need to look into. It's not a problem that can be solved overnight, because these are decisions that have been taken by the council over a number of years, and we are in this situation that we are. In terms of rough sleeping and begging, that has increased because of COVID period and difficulties we've had. It's still on the increase. We find a number of people who are rough sleeping and begging. Again, this is something which we have outreach teams. They're working with those people, but some of these people who are in that situation, it's because of concerns in relation to their health, in relation to substance misuse, and that is why that help is needed and required for them. We've had things reported, including graffiti, things where we've had difficulties with the park in terms of the cleanliness. These are issues which have time and time been raised, and I'm hoping that with the new budget, we have more powers, we have more money in order to deal with these matters. I'll leave mine at this stage. I'll come back in if necessary. I'll hand it over to you, Safi.
Thank you very much, Ron. I just want to add to the points that you've mentioned. So we've not had a meeting for a very long time, and I recognise that, and I know that residents are frustrated and being quite open and honest about this. It's not been a meeting for a very long time, and the last one I believe was in October 2019. And so since then we've had a year of pandemic, and it's been uncertain and very challenging times. I first would like to say I really appreciate how patient the residents have been in terms of waiting for a meeting. So thank you for that. Meanwhile, whilst we haven't had a meeting and we weren't able to have any surgeries in between due to the pandemic restrictions, I have been having and trying my best to deal with all the casework that I've been receiving regarding the increase in crime, drug dealing, prostitution, the issues in the park, the constant, endless fly tipping. It's been absolutely disgusting. People are coming from outside of Small Heath and, well, Small Heath Ward and the ward and the area itself, and continuously fly tipping. There has been, well, on the issue of fly tipping, there has been some prosecutions made, and people have been caught and taken to court, caught out and taken to court from Somerville Road. That's I can't give any more information on that, but you know, there has been some prosecutions made. There's also been people, and I really appreciate when people come to me and tell me there's this issue, and I'm able to hopefully work with them. I really believe in teamwork and taking pride in our area and city to move forward. So the thing is that the fly tipping issue, I'm constantly reporting it. Thankfully, there has been a £2 million budget put aside to recruit more wardens, enforcement cameras, which will help the prosecution and also deter people, stop people from fly tipping around the city, because this fly tipping, I mean, the image of Birmingham, I feel and personally believe that it has deteriorated significantly, and we are going to be hosting the Commonwealth Games, and you know, it's not a very sightly image that we have, you know, especially in the city of Birmingham and Small Heath Ward. And I think I speak for Councillor Rashid as well on this. Bordesley Green Ward, there's been a lot of fly tipping. So hopefully this will, I mean, I'll continue to, of course, keep you updated on what the monies will be spent on. Any suggestions that you'd like to make on how, you know, you recommend the money should be spent. There's also going to be educational projects to educate residents and, you know, get the message out on how to dispose of their rubbish and what needs to be done in terms of that. There's also loads of questions coming at the same time. So if I'm looking on the side or if I do go quiet, I'm just scrolling through the questions. I will answer all the questions that are directed to me, and of course, and send over the ones that are directed to the other two councillors as I'm chairing this meeting this evening. So if there's anybody that wants to get involved in this fly tipping projects, educational projects, or any other sort of projects to do with cleanliness and litter picking, hope to have more bins put around the ward, especially in the park and on the main Coventry Road. It's been, you know, I mean, Coventry Road, there's so many businesses, and it's such a fantastic road to have. It's a centre to get everybody together, and people come to and go through Coventry Road to get to the airport and to get to the other side to the city centre. So I think we should take more pride, and I think that this the £2 million will help with, you know, reducing the fly tipping. And so that's me on fly tipping. I'm just going to see if there's any questions that have come through regarding this whilst I'm on this subject. Bear with me. So some people have asked a question regarding the current priorities. One of my current priorities, again, with the fly tipping, is to be to keep everybody updated and have more and get involved with the educational projects which are upcoming. So that would be one thing, and that hopefully will help the image of the city and the ward itself. again, people are, some of these questions are to do with what I'll be saying in a short while as part of my update. So I'm just scrolling through now. And there's quite a lot of questions, so I'll try my best to answer all of them today. So one person, Sajid, has asked, could you ask or tell us why the street cleaner is not cleaning our streets, and since autumn no leaves have been cleaned from the roads? And he goes on to say that no, now stuck to the ground. The leaves are now stuck to the ground where the cars are parked. And there's been some what is the update on the issues of St. Oxwell's Road, dumping of rubbish and legal flats above the shops on the Coventry Road? So I have personally been dealing with the and speaking to John O'Shea, and I have emailed him about this, the street cleaner. I believe from what I know, generally speaking, is that there has been a shortage in staff, and due to the pandemic, and I have put in a request. I mean, not just there's no reference of which road you're referring to in terms of the street cleaner. However, Hogmore Road has had many requests of you know, and many emails regarding the cleanliness of Hogmore Road and also Somerville Road. So I have specifically put and again raised this as an urgent issue for these two roads to be cleaned. And yesterday evening, or was it today morning, I received an email to say that there was going to be officers going out to the site to both of the roads to get these cleaned up. Now moving on to the update of St. Oxwell's Road dumping of rubbish. This I've been reporting continuously, and also I believe that my colleague Councillor Khan has also continuously been reporting this issue, and we get things cleaned up. But some of this dumping is not from people, the residents that are living in the area, it's from outside. But like I said to you, the fly tipping issue hopefully will get resolved, or you know, but come to some kind of a solution with this extra fund that we have. And in terms of the legal flats above the shops, I have personally been out and spoken to the owners of the shops last summer when COVID restrictions allowed us to go out. They were very upset and very frustrated about the image of the shop. People, you know, just wanted to come into the shop from the side road, and they always complain, and they're sick to death of hearing about this fly tipping and that rubbish that's been dumped. And the thing is that it's because there's flats on top of the shop, and there's rubbish dumped on the side. It seems from the outset that this rubbish belongs to the business, which is giving the business a bad reputation. This was one of the key concerns that the meat shop raised with myself opposite the park. So I have personally a few months ago raised this again and reported the flats above the shop, and the planning officers will be going out to site when COVID restrictions permit them to go out and inspect the site to have a look at this. And they did say that, you know, it doesn't seem like this should be going ahead, but they couldn't give me a definite answer without the inspection taking place. So hopefully that answers Sajid's question. Somebody has asked me about the park, so we can move on to that next. So in terms of the park, I've spoken to the Friends of the Park earlier on this afternoon, and I've been working with them for a while now and also getting out the officers, Joe and Mike, to visit the park. But again, because of the restrictions, I think it's been quite difficult with the pandemic, having all these restrictions in place. We've been told to work from home and only go out when it's necessary. So I mean, once these restrictions permit and are reduced, we can go out and get them to come out and look at the site again. I think with the park keeper, if you're not aware already, I'll give you some background information. What happened was the park keeper was assaulted and threatened. So it's been quite difficult and a big challenge to get somebody there, you know, get the park keeper back to work, or get somebody else to cover his position because of the nature of the threat. So unfortunately, at this point in time, I don't have any further information on whether the park keeper will be reinstated or not, and when that will happen. So as it is, we do have people that go to the park and empty the bins, and also the maintenance of the park. But apart from that, there's nothing else that I can add to that regarding the park keeper. We've got some money that has been set aside for the Mughal Gardens. So last summer, the Friends of the Park and various other local community organisations were working together and cleaning up the Mughal Gardens. And I personally went out to help them and have a look and to support their efforts. So again, the money was supposed to be invested in the Mughal Gardens. I'd like to reassure you that is still the case, and that money will still be invested into the Mughal Gardens. We plan to have some plants planted and just sort of repair and put a bench, perhaps put some benches in, that sort of thing. But if there's anybody that would like to get involved with that or ask any further questions about that, please contact myself or Councillor Khan. We'd be more than happy to reply to your emails. And again, if you want to liaise with or get involved with the Friends of the Park, they're very keen to get as many people as possible to help out with that. So that's one thing. And the grass cutting. So the grass cutting throughout the pandemic, there was a point where they had to stop the grass cutting. But as far as I know, there's no issues with that at this point in time, and that should be going ahead as normal. So the other issue that I know about in the park is the pond. So we've been waiting for a very long time to have the pond, or should I say lake, cleaned out. People have again been tipping rubbish, bits of plastic, all kinds of things. And there was something on social media about sadly a duck that had died in that lake. It's very, very sad. But again, I've not had anything back from the parks manager, and I will put that on. I have prioritised that, and I have again put that down whilst Councillor Khan was speaking, to chase that up. So hopefully in the next meeting or on my social media, I'll keep you updated. That's the information of the park. There's also, of course, the prostitution and the drug taking that's taking place in the park. Trying to get as many people as possible. Hopefully, working with the police to get a street watch set up. We have a lot of people, but it's quite difficult to get them to come along and to take part. So if anybody wants to get involved with that, please do send me an email. And just going through any more questions.
Sorry, Safia.
Yes.
I did put a message. You want to ask Councillor Rashid for his update on Bordesley Green Ward?
Yes, Councillor Khan. Councillor Rashid did mention that he wanted us to go ahead first. So I'm just sort of towards the end of my update, and so we'll definitely welcome Councillor Rashid to take the floor and give his update for his ward. So just bear with me, Councillor Rashid. Not much long now.
My apologies, Chair.
No worries. Okay, so going forward, the paving on the streets around Small Heath. So there's been a programme put in place, and I've been speaking to the highways team in regards to that, and they've said that they wanted a list of the names of the roads and a list of the exact location where there requires a resurface, or where we feel that, or where I think that there needs to be resurfaced, or it's not safe. So I mean, I did put this on my social media, but there's been very little response. So I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome any sort of, suggestions. Whether you want to post them on here as comments, or send them to me on my social media or via email. If you feel that there's any part of your road or any part of Small Heath ward which needs to be resurfaced, or you feel that the road is unsafe, there will be an engineer going out to inspect that specific area. and road, and then what they'll do is, after carrying out that inspection, they'll put it on a list of things to, well, roads to be resurfaced. And I think that I really appreciate the residents' involvement in this, because there's a lot of roads in Small Heath ward that haven't been resurfaced for a while. So if you can send that across to me, that would be great. And that program would be starting, I believe it's in April, but I'll double check that for everyone. So that hopefully should answer that question regarding the paving on the streets. In particular, I have mentioned already a few roads, Hobmore Road, where the shops and the post office is, St Otswald's Road towards the Comty Road junction, and some parts of Comty Road which fall into my ward. So there's some questions about car parking and illegal parking. Working with the police to tackle that, but unfortunately there's not been an update regarding the regarding what's happening with that. What I do know is that the powers were taken away from the policing teams by the government during the pandemic. They have now returned, and what I do know is that the policing teams have been going around and issuing tickets. So if there's anybody parked illegally, then there will be tickets issued. But going forward, my key priority is that to get involved with the police and get some kind of a scheme put in place, similar to the one that we have on, well, to neighbouring ward in Alum Rock ward, where we have, where they have wardens patrolling and issuing tickets instantly. I think that will help and deter this illegal parking on pavements and this parking issue where people are parking inconsiderately with no consideration at all to other road users, especially vulnerable road users. And somebody's asked about the anonymous, somebody's asked whether they'll have access to this recording. Yes, this is a live meeting. They'll have the access to this recording, and I believe it's on for some 180 days or so, but it's just over 100 days. I'm not sure exactly how many days it is, but you'll definitely have access to this meeting, and these questions will remain on there as well. Again, some of these questions have already been answered in terms of what the rubbish on the footpaths. People have also commented and said about the smoking of illicit drugs, openly dealing. If you have any information, you can report that anonymously to Crime Stoppers or report it to the local policing team. And even so, I've been, well, at that side, I've been taking some information from people and confidentially sharing that with the police and working with the police to deter crime and to reduce crime. They do have a lot of information, and they're currently working on at the moment, and there has been raids where money has been seized, drugs have been seized, and various other things, weapons as well, have been seized. So and rightfully so, my colleague Councillor Khan has said that we need people to report this to the police. I agree with you. Now, Councillor Khan, if I can just take this over to you. Somebody's asked a question about the HMOs. If you're able to answer this question, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. With regards to HMOs, there have been many occasions where I've had to report in relation to HMOs. In particular, there were large HMOs that were being proposed on Tennyson Road, sometimes up to 12 to 16 bedrooms. You need a license in terms of HMO, plus there is a planning application. But the difficulty which I came across was that there were limited objections which you could put forward in terms of planning for these HMOs. I mean, we had the usual reasons about where the waste bins would go if there were 16 bedrooms, where would people park up their vehicles, and also about the health and safety concerns about the noise and the neighbors. And some of these issues, they said, were, the department informed me, were objections which could be noted, but they weren't relevant objections. So once again, I think as a community, we are hearing what you have to say. It's not only in our small Heath ward, but it is wards in other parts of the city where colleagues are saying the same thing, that the difficulties they are having with HMOs and sometimes people who are occupying the HMOs. And this is again something which we have to campaign upon. We have to look at it carefully, campaign, and make our representations to the council departments in terms of what the difficulties are with these HMOs. And we have to then look at reviewing the rules around the HMOs in terms of how they are licensed and also the planning conditions. And some of these things which normal residents raise, we will have to raise these as being valid objections, whether that be about noise, whether that be about the level or the number of occupants in the house, and whether it's about things like where's the parking, the waste refuse collection bins. This is something which I've time and time raised, whether it involves the dumping on Dora Road, St. Husband's Road. These are things which I've raised with the council, that you know, where are the wheelie bins for the flats, for all of these dwelling houses that are above, behind shops or above the shop, and how is this waste collected? And again, this is something we're working upon. I've spoken to the cabinet member, John O'Shea, in charge in relation to these matters. I will be having further discussions with him to set out certain goals and priorities where we can have a managed, phased system where people can have wheelie bins, and we have a more effective system where waste can be collected without what we're seeing at the moment. Sometimes on St. Husband's Road is stacks and stacks of refuse collection piling up. And you know, we have residents complaining to myself, complaining to Councillor Akhtar, and inevitably we are dealing with this. We're raising the inquiries, we are putting forward your complaints. And I know it can be frustrating. I know you're thinking, well, you're the councillors, you're reporting this, but why haven't you done anything about it? What I have to explain to you is that the council, Birmingham City Council, is the largest local authority, or one of the largest local authorities, not in the United Kingdom, but in Europe. And we have large amounts of responsibilities. And we have to put things on record. We have to have discussions in terms of what is happening, what's going wrong, and try and then come to arrangements where we can try and make things right and rectify them. Just on a few matters which I've been reading through the questions, whilst my colleague Councillor Akhtar has been chairing the meeting, there's been a number of comments and suggestions being made. In terms of drug dealing, we get reports of drug dealing in Small Heath all the time, and we put forward these reports. One of the things which the police officers in our area have asked us is that you need to explain to the residents that they must call us or they must report it. There is the West Midlands anonymous reporting line. There is also the internet message where you can insert the details of the complaint and anonymously put that in. You could put in the date, time, where the incidents have taken place. But sometimes I get people arguing with me saying, well, what is the point, councillor? The police is doing nothing about it. The issue is we still need it reported. We still need it documented. And where you find that the activity continues and increases, the police then take action. We do see police, they do take action. They raid number of premises, they undertake arrests, and they do bring charges against people. So it is not simply the case that the police is ignoring this. It is picked up, but we still need people being proactive. I suppose I understand people can get frustrated by reporting and nothing happening sometimes, but it's a process and we have to follow that process through. In terms of Small Heath Park, there have been some comments. I live close by to Small Heath Park. I see the work that the workers and contractors are doing there, the tree felling, the grass cutting, and you know, in all in heart, we have those services. They are there, and they're active in Small Heath Park. There is things where improvements can be made, but I think it's the litter most of the time that blights the park, and that's what makes it so negative sometimes to the public and community. There's been a suggestion in the comments that there's a £2 million, and for some reason that the councillors were going to pocket that money. I mean, that is an absurd suggestion. We get paid our allowances, and that is it. That is official. It's on record. You can check it on the council's record in terms of what we are paid. But this suggestion that this money, which we are going to pocket, it's simply not the case. I want everybody to be assured that that is not how things are operating. Money has been allocated. There are various levels of the council departments and offices that inquiries go through, decision process is made, and then that money is allocated for funding. Various contractors, whether that is private or quasi contractors contracted by council, undertake various works. So the suggestion that for some reason we as councillors are going to pocket this money is simply not true. And I simply want everybody to be assured of that. There's been some chats in terms of cameras, where we should install cameras. St. Benedict's Road, Digby Park, St. Oswald's Road. This is something, again, it's going to be subject to a discussion and a dialogue with the constituents of Small Heath, simply because I know from past experiences that we have members of the public who are all up for having cameras because of fly tipping, because of antisocial behavior. But there are also members of the public who don't want cameras because of issues relating to their privacy. So where there is going to be installation of camera will be subject to the level of reports, what the council data has, and also there will be a discussion and dialogue with the residents of those particular roads to see what their views are in terms of where we have these cameras. I'll pass it over to Safi again.
Thank you for that. I just want to add to what you've said, Councillor God, about the cameras, CCTV. So I've been working with Cabinet Member John Cotton and the police to put in with regards to the CCTV, and it's been a long discussion. Because initially, first of all, because of the pandemic, the public consultation was put on hold, and since then I have been chasing this up, and they have now mentioned to me that we're just looking at the statistics, and there is redeployable CCTV available, and I've been working with the relevant people to get that put in place. Once the information has been assessed, and if there's any suggestions, like Councillor Khan has mentioned, during the public consultation, we will then discuss where these cameras need to be put up. Because they are redeployable CCTV cameras, what happens is, if there's been a certain number of reports made in a specific area or a specific road, then the cameras, according to statistics, would go up there. But at the same time, if there's been other complaints made and no other significant intelligence, but then there needs to be a certain number of complaints as well. So we look at the information and then decide on where that will be. It won't just be a decision that me or Councillor Khan make or the council makes. Will always involve the residents of the ward. So that's really important and very key. That if you do have any information or if you see any crime taking place, the more reports that we have, the better, and then that sort of will help with the installation of the CCTV. Now, because it's actually redeployable, it will only remain in that in the set location once it's been put up for a certain number of time. If crime falls, or if there's well, thinking about it, if the crime falls, then what will happen is that CCTV camera will be redeployed, hopefully within the ward, into another location where it is required, most required or most needed. So so again, informing the police and keeping an eye out and speaking to the local council and working with ourselves, it's key. But like I said, I'll keep you updated about what John has come back with, and also the policing team. That's one thing. So moving on now to the final thing, which is the road safety. So we've got the 2020 to 2021 minor measures fund, which some of you may already know about. It's been decided to put in place a raised crossing on the Somerville Road and to narrow the Aubrey Road junction, as there has been a lot of speeding going on there for a very long time now. So narrowing the junction will hopefully slow down the cars, and the putting the crossing in place. It's actually a raised crossing, so that will be put in place. That should have been done some time ago now. Unfortunately, again, because of the pandemic, that was put on hold. Spoken to Alan Porter today, this morning, in fact, in regards to when this will be going ahead and what the delay is. The officer has apologised and has said that, has given me more information that it will be taking place in the next few weeks or so. So hopefully, at the end of March, it should have gone through, and there'll be minimal disruption, because that's something that I asked about as well. So letters will be sent out and the residents will be informed. I did ask if we take the suggestion to have the road closed for a very, if it requires to be closed for a minimal amount of time, rather than prolonging the whole process out. So that's something that's going to be considered. Now, going forward with the following year's minor measures fund, spoken to him again about where that will be used, and still in discussion about what's going to happen with that amount of money. So this minor measures fund is to make improvements to the roads, and it can only be used for that purpose, basically. So what I've said is that suggestion I've made is that we can perhaps put in some railings and bollards where people have been parking inconsiderately. So there's been a huge problem over the last few years, and perhaps before my term, that people have been parking on the corner of junctions, and been parking, at such angles that you cannot get a pushchair or a wheelchair around that, or even you can't even walk on that pavement. So hopefully, by putting in these bollards across the ward where they're most needed, and various other things to help to deter people from parking inconsiderately, will be of some assistance. But if you have any suggestions that you would like to make, I'm open to that, and hopefully we still have time to decide what will happen with that money. Now, and the other thing is the Haybarns Road. So Haybarns Road, because of the number of accidents it's had and the ridiculous speeding that takes place there, again, that was something that's been investigated, and it's been looked into. It did come out after the investigation that it was a dangerous road, and it was placed on the priority. It's currently on the priority, one of the priority roads in the city, for another lot of money to be used towards that, to put in traffic calming measures. So hopefully, from all the casework that I get regarding Haybarns Road, this will answer the question. And Mr. Porter, Alan Porter, the engineer, has said to me that this will be reassessed, and just to make sure it still falls into that category. And what we'll do in the next meeting, hopefully I have some more information about how much, if it does, if you know what the outcome of this has been, and I'll keep you all posted. Now, Councillor Rashid has been waiting very, very patiently. So I'm sorry to keep you waiting, Councillor Rashid, but we haven't had one of these meetings for a long time. And so if I can ask you to give your update on Bordesley Green Ward, which is our neighbouring ward.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much indeed. It's, as you know very well, all of us living in Small Heath and Bordesley Green, it's the similar area, and we have the similar problems. I'm only going to touch on some of the most important issues in addition to what you have already mentioned, and that Small Heath Well-being Center is a major concern for all the residents around here. It was a great facility, and I'm really very upset about this, that the people are, the residents are denied the use of this facility. But because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to make any progress. As far as drug dealing is concerned, you had just mentioned that, and it's the same problem in my ward. And fly tipping has been a major problem, but I'm glad to say that I've been trying to get, I've managed to get rid of when people reported it. So it's still happening, and there are 1 or 2 spots still there. And all I ask you is to let me know. And sometimes even the missed collections, people say we haven't had the collection for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And I ask you please to make sure that you send the email or get in touch with me the same day when the collection is missed. And I've been requesting CCTV cameras to, so that to deal with this issue. But unfortunately, we haven't had any luck with that. And Camelot Way in Small Heath, at the end of Clovers Road. I mean, please, I'm getting too many emails and phone calls from people, residents, who find that too many cars are parked around there, and it might come down to a one-way system. So these are some of the problems. But in conclusion, I would like to ask you please to send me emails of, or write to me whenever there's an issue. And thank you very much indeed for being patient. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rashid. Is there anything else that you would like to add in terms of the questions? I'll answer any questions that have been asked to you regarding the cycle lanes. That's the question that I saw whilst I was scrolling past, scrolling through. Sorry. So, is there anything that you wanted to add regarding the cycle lanes on Bolton Road? And that's been something that has been brought to me quite a few times as a neighbouring ward councillor, and again has been asked in this meeting.
Sorry, what was the case?
The cycle lanes that have been introduced.
Oh, cycle lane Bolton Road, yes. Yes, sir. A lot of people have written to me, sent me emails, and I've taken the matter up with the council. And it was a temporary situation, and people, I mean, nobody else has since been able to get in touch with me. But I have submitted a petition. I've submitted petitions and wrote to the council as well. So I've done the best we can, and whatever the system is, you know, I haven't forgotten or I haven't ignored it. It's being dealt with.
Okay, and what's the current situation with that at the moment?
Current situation, they haven't said anything one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just waiting for an outcome. The best thing always is to not to wait for me to come back if I'm late, but send me, you know, resend the email so that or write to me or remind me so that I can get on to the officers to find out what's happening. Why is it taking too much time? It's bad enough as it is for residents to suffer the anxiety, but anyway, I'm doing the best I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shahid. Now, I believe we have another officer with us today regarding a monument in a monument that we have the residents of Small Heath Ward have put in would like to put in place. They have invested money into getting this monument and gone through the relevant channels. Robert Chern, would you like to give more information on that, please?
Yes, hello. Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Chern. I'm head of landscape and development in the Parks Department at the City Council. And I've come along tonight to just present on behalf of the International Mother Language Monument Project the proposals for a monument within Small Heath Park celebrating International Mother Language Day. Parks colleagues were approached by the group looking for a suitable site for a permanent monument. The monument's erected annually for a celebration on the 21st of February in Small Heath Park, and the group are looking to be able to fund from their own resources a permanent structure to celebrate this this day. My group within Parks is I'm head up the landscape practice group, so we were asked to help the group come up with a design and to sort of steer them through all the different processes necessary in order to get approval to erect such a thing within the park. So it's a community-led project, but we're helping them sort of find the way through the different processes. And this meeting is obviously one of those processes in terms of communicating what's happening. There is a planning permission in place. We did some design work for the group and submitted a planning application on their behalf, and that got approval in January, and I'll share the drawings on my screen in a moment. But there are various stages that have to go through. The planning process is a separate process to actually getting council approval to actually erect the thing within the park, and the stages that we've advised that need to go forward so far is a wider community consultation, which has been asked by the Public Art Gateway Group and also the Trust and Charities Committee. The Small Heath Park is held in trust, so it's not exclusively a council decision. It's the trust that have to make the decision about whether the monument can go ahead, and they've asked for this wider consultation, and hopefully tonight will be the sort of start of that wider process. And also the cabinet member for street scene and parks was also would need approval for the report to go to the Trust and Charities Committee. So there's quite a lot of processes to and hurdles to jump just yet. So once this consultations happened and the feedbacks come back to the group, they can then take a presentation to the Trust and Charities Committee, to the Public Art Group, and subsequently the Trust and Charities Committee to get approval. So if I just share the designs on my screen, and hopefully the quality will be good enough for people to be able to see. But I'll start off with it might take me a little bit of time to find the right drawings, but are people able to see this this picture here?
Yes.
Is that showing?
Yes, we can see that, Bob.
It is showing. Lovely. Okay. So if you know the Coventry Road, where the main shops are on to the north of Small Heath Park, you'll get an indication of the location that's been chosen for the monument. There used to be a sort of a shrub bed there, or a flower bed that got taken out, and so there's a space within the trees. So it's quite a nice setting, and it can be seen as people come up the Coventry Road within the park, and it's also got good access from the footpaths within the park to this site. The other advantage is there's quite a large open space of grass here, so when you get the crowds on that February the 21st evening, you get you've got plenty of space to hold the celebration. So that was the site that was chosen. If I what I have to do is a bit of not sharing and sharing, so this is going to take me a little bit of time because it's technology. So bear with me, and I'll show you. Share. Oh, am I back in? It lost me for a minute, and I was so I'm back.
Oh,
so
right.
Right. I was panicking then. I thought I was going to be locked out. But this is going in a bit closer on the plan, and I'll because it's quite small, I will try and zoom in so people can see. But the idea is that it's on a setting a sort of like a curved pattern, and then you've got 5 pieces of sculpture or structure within the design, and then we've got this paved area here. So you've got that opportunity for quite a sort of I suppose. Sorry. It's supposed to be a seating area, yes. So you can come in closer. It could be a small group, could have an event or a meeting in this area, and then, as I was showing before, it can broaden out to a sort of a much bigger site. And then with the idea is to put some paving in, so people can access this area without getting muddy feet. And then it's got a nice backdrop of trees at the back. And then there's the idea is to put some text, verse of poetry into the paving, and I'm just going to zoom in on that to see if people can see what that says. And it's a bit of verse, and it says, "One's mother tongue cannot be forgotten, and the joy of using mother tongue is divine. So it's a celebration of people being able to speak their language of their birth, and that's for all communities. The design is this 5 structures, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think it represents a mother and a children, so it's talking about mother language, and so these structures are set on a 1 meter high concrete plinth, and there are different sizes that come down in scale. So the tallest piece is 4 meters high by 1.7 meters wide, and the plinth is 1 meter high. So you've got the absolute maximum height is 5 meters with the plinth, and that is probably about the height of a low level lamppost. And then it comes down in size as it comes around the curve. The section, looking through the way, just shows the fact you've got this step in front, so people can come up. You can sit on here or sit up here, and there's potential to lay wreaths and whatnot onto the plinth, and then this main piece is a bigger section than the other pieces, because it's taller and because it's got this cantilever. It needs a quite strong foundation. We've had a structural engineer look at it for us to make sure that we've got the specification right. I do have, I think it's here. There's the structural drawings. It's showing you the same thing, really, but more of a technical drawing. So there's probably no need to show any more than that. So I think that's probably a description, as good a description as I can give for now. So I suppose just whether anybody's got any questions.
We've had quite a few people who have said that they're in support and in favour of the International Mother Tongue Monument at the park. Also, quite a few number of people actually. But there's not been any questions. I mean, I think so. Just to confirm, there's going to be, from my understanding, what you've shared with us today, and it's been quite interesting and it's quite informative as well. We've got the monument in the middle. The monument consists of five different stages, I guess. And
they're steel structures, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and which are made from steel, and they'll be in a semicircle, leaving some area at the front of the structures, and the structures, well, that area would be used as seating area, and then going around the monument would be a garden in essence with plants and trees.
Yeah, I mean, this drawing doesn't show the plants. You've got existing trees. These are existing trees in there, so it's set in the grass within the. But there is scope for putting in plants. But as I say, because it's a community project, it's not something that the council's going to take responsibility for the maintenance and management of it. It's a purely community-led project. So it's whatever goes in there will need to be looked after by the community. So that's just trying to sort of make that clear to people. So it's not funded by the council either. So
yeah. So from my understanding as the ward councillor, it has the residents and the businessmen of the community have come together to fund this, and also have taken out the relevant insurances. Is that correct, Robert? To make sure that this is maintained.
Yes, that's that. For it to go ahead, we'll need evidence of the various insurances and the how can I put it, the sort of structure of the group, so that there's it's a properly trying to think of the word, probably sort of constituted group, and that they have a sort of a management plan in place in order to take it forward and maintain it.
Okay, so question regarding this monument. I'm bringing here Goddess across the point at the moment. The question is, how much is the cost of the monument to construct?
Right, yeah, well that's a very good question. We've put an estimate in its current form of it's £190,000, which is quite a significant amount of money, and I think that's something that if you think about the size of it and the amount of reinforced concrete that needs to sustain that height of structure,
yeah,
that's probably where the costs are. And there's quite a bit of paving in that front area, and the access path. So it is quite an expensive feature.
yeah.
But I suppose it's when you get into the detailed design and the tendering process that you'll get a better idea of what the actual cost is. We've just gone out to one supplier to give us an indication of costs so far. So there will be potential for that to be trimmed down. Or
okay, and how long do you anticipate this monument to take to be put in place, providing it passes all the different channels and people are happy with the monument?
I suppose once it's been through all the channels, the actual sort of construction process, you're looking at a sort of probably a sort of an 8 to 12 week construction period, and then you've probably got prior to that, and it depends how you plan it and give the contractor enough notice, there's probably sort of 6 weeks sort of off-site construction that has to take place before it comes onto site. So so you're looking at about sort of 14 weeks, so about 3 months, 3 to 4 months from when you get permission to getting the thing constructed.
Bob, I have a few questions. Sorry, Chair.
I'm going to come in and ask any questions that you may have.
Bob, thank you for the presentation. I'm gathering this is the monument. It's the is it the Bangladeshi International Mother Language Monument?
It is. I suppose inspired by that. It is an international mother language monument, but it is reflective of the monument that was constructed in Dhaka. So it's got that. That's where its provenance comes from. Okay.
Now, in terms of the monument, this will take up space, as you've shown, towards the front side of the park or on the Community Road side of the park.
Right. Yeah.
If there were if there were proposals by other organizations to build similar monuments, would you, as one of the officers, envisage any difficulties then in allowing other organizations to also allow their monuments to be erected in the park in different locations?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to be quite careful about these sorts of features. I think with Small Heath Park, it's got a sort of a history of the celebration happening in Small Heath Park. So there's a sort of a sort of base for why this site has been chosen. Any sort of group who wanted to build something that celebrates their culture, they would need to go through the same processes and get the same approvals as this group have. So there is the Public Art Gateway group. So we haven't got through that group yet, but that's the sort of you know, it's by its name, it's the gateway. Anything that's got a public art sort of remit has to go through that that group. And there have been other examples, like there's the I think it's the Seuss monument in Cannon Hill Park. Went into Cannon Hill Park, and that was a very specific memorial monument. So it does happen, but it has to be it has to go through the right procedures.
I mean, I'll just finish off on this point. I mean, the reason why I raised this is simply because there have been residents in Small Heath who have raised this issue with me after the planning application and consultation. And what the residents have said is, well, in future, because there is multiple, Small Heath is a diverse place, there's lots of communities living there. What other communities feel is that they may also wish to make applications in remembrance of certain events or certain figures of the public. And they might make applications for erections of those monuments in the park. That's something which I did raise with the planning committee when this consultation took place, to say that you need to bear in mind that this is a diverse community with multiple ethnic and diversity, and other applications may also be forthcoming in the future. Is something which the department as well as the council needs to be conscious of, how they will accommodate others in future.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a fair point, and I think when it comes down to this particular monument, it's not, even though it's got that provenance of the Bangladesh, from the Bangladeshi community, it is a recognised day, the International Mother Language Day, and it is meant to celebrate all sort of languages, or that all people from different communities. And the way it's designed is to try and create a space that, you know, anybody can sit and enjoy that space as well. But yeah, I mean, there is a process to go through, and if people have got other projects they're interested in, they would have to go through a similar approval process. And just one thing about the planning, though, just to clarify on the planning, in terms of a structure and its size and its suitability for a park, the planning committee look at it from a sort of they're quite what's the word, neutral, I suppose, about the what it's actually signifies to a certain extent. It's more to do with its size, its structure, and whether that would suit the setting within the park, and that's what they've made their decision on. The other process, going through the public art gateway group, that's obviously a different process, and that's a council process and a council decision. And then there's the Trust and Charities Committee, who are the land, that they're responsible for the land. They will have their view as well. So there are hurdles to get through yet, and they're different things to consider.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you for coming along, presenting, and also giving us this benefit.
Just wanted to add to what you to this make a final point with regards to the Bangladeshi monument. I personally believe that this monument is a fantastic investment in Small Heath Ward and into Small Heath Park, and it's gone through the different channels so far. The community has come together, and of course, and the businesses have come together to set aside a whopping £190,000 or thereabouts. It might cost more, like you said. I mean, more or less around that amount. So, and also, I mean, if they're investing that, as far as I see it, the communities were investing the money into their ward, and they're taking pride of their mother tongue, and of course other languages which have been celebrated. Which it's an occasion that's celebrated across the world. I mean, it took place again on the 21st of February, but unfortunately they couldn't celebrate this time round because of the current pandemic. But I believe, from my knowledge, in Small Heath Ward or the park, they've been doing this for over 6 years or thereabouts. And so what they tend to do, for the information of the residents as well, what they tend to do is erect a temporary monument and celebrate and come together, light candles, and remember the people who were injured and those who died whilst they were fighting for their right to be recognised and the mother tongue and the language to be recognised. And you know, I think it's great to have this monument, and I think that it will attract people to come to this area to look at this monument. And in terms of the financial aspect, again, it's going to be paid for by the group of people, by the residents, and again maintained by them as well. It's going to make the front of the park, where the flower beds used to be and used to be very pretty, again, they've been removed. So we do need to have something put in place, and I have been working with the parks managers to get something put in place, again, the flower beds, but it's been challenging because of the cost element. So I mean, I really welcome this monument, because I feel that yes, it's an expensive monument. Yes, the residents are investing into it, and it's going to make the front of the park more attractive, more appealing, and hopefully we'll have more people come into the park and improve the businesses and have more business on the Coventry Road. So we've got loads of comments here which have been published, and a lot of people have said that they are in favour of the monument and they support the mother language monument that is being put up in Smallheath Park. And some people have said, have clarified that it's not just a Bangladeshi monument. In fact, I just want to share some of the history of this monument with the residents. What happened was, for those who are not aware, on the 21st of February 1952, in the east of, at the time, in the east of Pakistan, students were fought against and took out a rally for the recognition of their mother tongue, which was the Bangladeshi language. So during this protest, people were killed and people were injured, sorry, and 4 students were killed. And because of this, the day is commemorated. So it's a monument that commemorates, and again, as well as that, celebrates the languages across the world. So it's not just the Bangladeshi community. However, because it was actually the fight was actually for the recognition of the Bangladeshi language, I believe that some people have referred to it as the Bangladeshi monument. However, just like to confirm again, it's something that's recognized internationally all around the world, and people come together on the 21st of February every year. So again, there's been more comments to say that people are supporting this. So and the residents are supporting this. So yeah, I mean, so that's that. So thank you again, Robert, for coming along. And just having to look at the agenda again. If there's any other questions, I'm sure Robert will be more than happy to answer them. And if you have any concerns, I'm more than happy to take up any questions if you send me them in an email. We'll keep you updated about the progress of this monument going forward. Now, going back to the agenda, the time has gone over considerably. I believe that we've already the other update. The other thing was the police update. We've not actually had a police update, but what I can say is that the police is working with the schools, like Councillor Khan mentioned, and there has been and there's been a lot of antisocial behaviour. I received an email today with regards to a community initiative fund. If any community group would like to participate and come together and apply for the community initiative fund, applications will start on the 1st of April, and the deadline date for this is the 16th of April. So if you require any help at all, and if you want to come together, or if you have a like-minded individuals that take pride and have in mind any sort of community projects that will help to reduce antisocial behaviour or engage youth, then please do contact me. I'm more than happy to give you the guidance in order to apply for this fund going forward. But aside of that, I've already mentioned the Friends of the Park who are working continuously, cleaning the park up and making sure that they can do as much as they can in the current situation, and they've been going out even in this weather. So thank you very much to them. Is there any other update that you'd like to give Councillor Khan in terms of the community groups, or Councillor Rashid in your ward with regards to community groups?
No, I'm fine. I've given my update. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Rashid, would you like to add anything in terms of the community groups that are taking?
Nothing more to say. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Happy working with them.
Okay, great stuff. So I mean, going forward now, we're going to come into the end of this meeting. I'd like to thank everybody that's been that's attended. Thank you everybody for your questions. Somebody's asked me for my email address. Yes, my email address is safia.akhtar@birmingham.gov.uk. I'm also on Facebook, so you can add me on Facebook. Somebody's asked a question about the census. Yes, so the census is something that we are intended to cover in the next meeting, which we hope to hold in next month, towards the end of the month again. But I'll briefly mention the census whilst we're here. We've got a census coming up which takes place every 10 years. It's very, very important for the census, for people to fill out the census and share the information, because this affects the number of school places, the jobs, the GP surgeries, and also in terms of how we recognize ourselves. So if you and our backgrounds, our ages, so the different services, youth services, schools, education, and various other services. But if we need to be sure that we are able to fill this form out, this time round it's an online form, but for any reason, if you're not able to fill the form out online, I believe there is an option of having that sent to you as a hard copy. There should have been a postcard dropped through your letterboxes in the last few days or last week or so. So there's some more information on that. Going forward, somebody's asked a question about the next meeting. The next meeting, I cannot confirm a specific date, but what I can say to you that I intend to hold the next meeting at the end of next month. And meanwhile, if you have any other questions or queries or any casework, please send that across to me to the email address I have mentioned. Thank you very much for joining in today, and I hope that you have a great evening. And I think there's some other questions coming in. So, oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Thanks. People are okay. People again are still talking about the monument, and they're welcoming the monument. So, okay, we're going to call that meeting. We're going to come to the end of the meeting now. Again, thank you very much. Have a great evening and stay safe. Take care.